Welcome back. Today I'm gonna be cooking ricotta gnocchi because look, potatoes are like just too difficult to work with. The very first thing that I need to do is drain said ricotta. Is it ricotta? Is that how you say it? Ricotta. I gotta drain this ricotta because it's just too wet. It's too wet. If there's all this water content in it, it's just not gonna make a very good gnocchi. So, that being said, we have to hyper drain this of all of its water. And the way that you do that is by a paper towel. Very simple. Okay, so here's what you're gonna need. A baking sheet and a wire rack so that it can drain. Paper towel, and then I think another paper towel. Double wrap this thing. I want it to have all the soaking power that it can from Bounty, the quicker picker upper over here. Okay. First step, take the ricotta out and smear it with a spatula and just like that. Getting paper towels and then putting paper towels on top of it. Just like this, okay? The next step, I gotta apply some pressure, right? I wanna squeeze all of that water out of it. So, if you've got it, use it. Whatever you have that has some weight to it, not an incredible amount of weight, right? Don't put your table on top of it, but something you have, and if you have another baking sheet, you can put that on top of it and put like some books on top of it. That's what I've done before, but this has a pretty considerable amount of weight. So this is gonna sit for about 15 minutes. While this sits, I'm gonna prep the rest of the ingredients. I just hit the mic. So it turns out I actually needed this cutting board. So I shifted the other cutting board on top of the ricotta, and that is holding down and sucking that moisture out. In the meantime, I'm gonna make the sauce for this gnocchi, which is just a tomato pancetta sauce. I just need half a diced onion. I think this will probably get me there, a half a cup. So always first things first, cut off this top part, right? Flip it on the cut and chop down, right down the center here. I want this to be a little bit finer, so that's why I'm doing a bit of a dice here. Just give it a couple good back and forth. So we got the onion. Now for the garlic, 2 cloves. Never, ever buy that pre-minced garlic. That doesn't even taste like garlic. I don't even know what that even tastes like. San Marzano tomatoes, that's specifically what you need to be looking for when it comes to the tomatoes you use here. These are supposed to be crushed. These are whole, peeled. Watch out, by the way, because these will get a little bit crazy sometimes. They shoot out that tomato juice at you, so just be aware. Okay, there we go. And the last thing on this list is pancetta. Now, I just pulled this out of the freezer because I want it to be cold enough to where it's a little bit easier to cut. We have to consider what is the application of what we're cooking, and we want this to be a little bit more refined. If you want to do like a rustic cut, you can. What I'm trying to do is more of a dice with this pancetta. If it's warm, that fat's gonna be melting and it's gonna be hard to cut. I'm trying to use my fingertips instead of anything else. I don't want my body temp to heat this up, and it's already starting to. There you go, diced pancetta. Hey, let's make this sauce. Pancetta in. I'm just rendering that fat out. So if you ever want to render fat out, you always start it on low, right? And let it heat up and let that fat pull itself out. We're gonna get back onto this gnocchi. Take this off. Look at this. Look at this. This is soaking wet, okay? There we go. Comes right off. If you leave it on those paper towels long enough, it's not gonna stick to it. The trick here is if you put it on there and you're impatient, you wait 2 minutes, you try to rip it off, it's gonna be a mess. It's not gonna come off properly. Put this right over the bowl, give it a little shake, and for the most part, it should just come right off. Check on our pancetta, right? Slowly pulling it out there. To this bowl, I'm gonna add about a half a cup of parm, freshly grated, about a tablespoon and a half of olive oil, and 2 eggs. Remember what we do, right? We slap the eggs together. A little salt never hurt anybody. A little bit of pepper in there. Okay. While I'm stirring this, I'm also listening, and I'm hearing the fat render out of the pancetta. As soon as that sizzling starts to go down, I know that I need to go over there and agitate it a little bit. Got about a cup and a quarter worth of flour. I'm not trying to develop a lot of gluten here, so I'm being sort of gentle with this and just folding it on top of itself. Pancetta's done. I've gotten everything out of it. It's nice and crispy. I'm just gonna take this out, put this in a bowl, and leave this fat to cook the onion and the garlic. I'm gonna add the onions to it, cook that till it softens. Now, where were we before we were rudely interrupted? Here's our dough, our beautiful ricotta gnocchi. I am rolling this out. This is super easy. I'm rolling this out like it's a long snake. You know what? I've got a wooden cutting board that I bet would be perfect for this. Oh yeah. Quick little break here. Garlic goes in. I'm gonna be making this until I start smelling the garlic. These are about 1 inch long little pillows. Okay. Tomatoes in. Okay. Just a little bit of flour, right? Not trying to save the world here. So here's sort of my eyeball here. Well, let me cut this and I'll show you. You see how this is about 1 inch? So if I'm looking at my finger, right? My finger is 1 inch, or to this crease, right? And that's typically what I'm looking at, is something that goes to that first crease, just like that. See what I'm talking about? That's the size of gnocchi that I make. Ta-da! Ricotta gnocchi. Now, for the portion that you don't use, let me show you, just let me get my face out of here. So, for the portion of this that you don't use, you can throw this onto a sheet pan into the freezer. And as soon as it's frozen, all you have to do is throw it in a Ziploc and it's good to go. So whenever you're hungry, you just pull out this ricotta gnocchi, throw it in some boiling water, and then put whatever sauce you want on it. If you take this ricotta gnocchi and you cook it in duck fat and throw on some parm, it tastes like Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuits. It's the craziest thing. Just so you know, just a little something from me to you. If you're curious, you can peep the chicken broth episode. I'm gonna add just a little bit of chicken broth to it. Here's what we're looking at right here for this sauce. Look at that. I'm gonna add this pancetta into it, and I'm gonna throw it back on the stove for about 10 minutes. I am going to chiffonade some basil here. Chiffonade is a fancy word for cutting very thinly. What you're gonna do right here, okay? You have your basil, okay? I put them smallest to biggest, and I'm gonna roll it up like a little cigar. So now, take my knife, right? You have this little cigar right here, and just work my way down. The key is to chop this as finely as you can. If you want it to feel a little bit more refined, a little bit more elegant, you need to do finer knife cuts. And that also requires a sharp knife, which jury's out right now on mine because I need to get it sharpened. Here's our sauce. Take our chiffonade and get it in there. I want to infuse freshness in this. As soon as this water boils, I dump the ricotta in there, and then we're done. And then we plate, then we eat. We're out of here. Gnocchi in. As soon as these float, they're done. And just like that, they're done. Gonna come in here with our sauce. Grated parm. Come in with a little bit of olive oil right over the top. I want it to look. Listen. This is like eating pillows. Like, That pancetta is meaty. That chicken broth added a nice little umami-ness to it. The key to this is the lack of gluten development. It melts. It completely melts. Out of control. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and see you on the next episode.